To sum up this particular chapter, what you studied in this chapter is actually a new subject, like a new topic, correct? See, in this chapter, you studied about numbers which are beyond real numbers, the complex numbers. So, what are the things you studied in this particular chapter? You started off by understanding what is a complex number, right? So, how you are going to represent a complex number, like in terms of a real plus a complex number, like how we write it as a plus I into b, right? Now, once you have a complex number, then you are going to understand the different variations of the same complex number. Like you have a complex number, the basic properties you learned, correct? Suppose if you have a conjugate, how are you going to write it, right? Then after that, you started off by understanding the Argand plane and the polar coordinates. Once you have the Argand plane and the polar coordinates, Argand plane is where you are going to represent the complex number, correct? Like how we have the x and y axis, like that. So along the x, you have the real number, and along the y, you have the imaginary number, right? So the same Cartesian system what we are using to represent the plane. So here we are going to use the Argand plane, correct? And in the Argand plane, we are going to use the Cartesian system or the Cartesian way of representing the complex numbers. Now, the equivalent part of that is the polar coordinates, where we have in terms of r and theta, correct? Now, to understand about the polar coordinates, you need to understand a very important part, that is modulus of a complex number. If you have a plus ib, then the modulus is root of a square plus b square, correct? This is basically the modulus of a complex number. Now, we use r is equal to the modulus, and theta, we get it as tan inverse of b by a. So, this is basically the entire chapter of complex numbers. So, what all did you study? So, first you have the complex number, correct? The presentation of them, the rules, the mathematical and algebraic rules of the complex numbers. Then we have the modulus and conjugate. Then you have the Argand plane and the polar representation of a complex number, right? So these are the things what you have studied in this chapter, complex numbers.